Hello friends, Sam with Graham doing TCGs yet again. On Wednesdays, we wear pink. In any case, here we are going into the last two decks from the History Pack 1 pre-constructed Blitz decks. The best and the worst. I say the worst. Wizard just hurts my feelings, that's all there is to it. It's nothing bad about it. It's actually pretty neat. I like the concept. It's always fun to have that deck that sort of breaks the rules of how the game is usually played. I legitimately think it is actually pretty neat. It just breaks my brain and I can't handle it very well. So we've got that, and we've got my gal, Dorinthea. So we'll start with Kano and save the best for last. Not knowing all of the math behind Wizard, and Kano, Fire Wizard in particular, I won't know exactly what I'm looking for here. Though, I do know that a couple of the linchpin cards for it are Majestics, so will not be here. So that is one interesting thing to keep in mind. That being Blazing Ether and I can't remember the other one. But there are two pieces of the combo that just boost to this ridiculous, like, you're not safe if you have 27 or less health in a classic constructed match against Kano. So his ability starts off the fun. It's an instant, so either turn, his turn or the opponent's turn. Usually, Kano tends to do this on opponent's turn more often than not. Look at the top card of your deck. If it's a non-attack action card, you may banish it. If you do, you may play it this turn as though it were an instant. So this lets him pay 3, so it's expensive, but you're breaking the rules of the game, so it makes sense. So he banishes the top card if it's a non-attack action, which most of his stuff is, as you'll see. And if you do, you can play it like an instant. So you're cycling through this stuff, ultimately trying to find the monster combo pieces to really light up your opponent. So Kano's first. His weapon, Crucible of Aetherweave, once per turn instant. So again, instant once per turn. That's both players' turns. The next card you play this turn with an arcane damage effect instead deals that much +1. Easy enough. Talismanic Lens. Destroy it to opt 2. So that's another thing you can do. Look at the top 2 cards of your deck. So you would do this. Theoretically, either you Kano'd and didn't like the card that was there, so you opt through, or you stack the deck, cycle through stuff you don't want, or leave something on top that you do. Robe of Rapture. Destroy it to gain 3, and it's got Arcane Barrier. Easy enough. So that's basically on your turn, it's an instant pay for Kano, or whatever else you need to. Null Rune Gloves. That's just a Arcane Barrier. Mage Master Boots. Pay 1 to destroy him. Next non-attack action card you play this turn gains go again. So again, most of his deck. So here's what's different about Wizard. So this is 1. It doesn't attack. It blocks 3. Come on, focus. There we go. But wait. It deals 3 arcane damage to target opposing hero. The next card you play this turn with an arcane damage effect instead deals that much plus X, where X is damage dealt by Ether Flare. So this is another one that goes well into the combos and stuff like that, especially later on in the combo. So you pay 1 for this, but 3 arcane damage. So that's not the combat damage like most cards. So this is just 3. So you can't block this with equipment. You can't block this with cards for him hand. This is what you need. I mentioned it going by. That's what you need equipment with Arcane Barrier for. So you just pitch to block a certain amount of it, but per card, you can only block however much Arcane Barrier you have, or per source, rather. So if you only have Arcane Barrier 1, and this is coming in for 3, you're taking 2 of it. If you got AB3, you could pay 3 and take care of this. Basically the gist of it. So that's a good start. Ether Spindle, deal 4 to target opposing hero, and opt X where X is damage dealt. So that's another cycling your cards, trying to set up for the combo, see what Kano can find. So that's pretty cool. Reverberate. So this is deal 3. If it deals damage, you can try and hope your camera focuses. You may banish a wizard non-attack action from your hand with costs with 1 resource cost less than or equal to the damage dealt by Reverberate. If you do, you may play it this turn as if it were an instant. So you could Kano into something else. It's all about trying to set up these. So this is just one straight up 4 arcane damage. Some of them are much simpler. Timekeeper's Whim, pay 3, deals 5, but if it's played on an opponent's turn, put it on the bottom of its owner's deck so it can cycle back in. Voltic Bolt, just 2 for 5. Zap, 0 for 3. Scalding Rain, 1 for 3. 2 for 4. 0 for 2. So most of these cards, Ether Flare again, Emeritus Scolding. This is actually a fun card. Deal 2 to target hero if it is played during an opponent's turn. Instead, deal 4. So that's kind of benefiting. It's actually good for both. It's nice for blanking. Anyway, it's still not bad because it gets a boost on your opponent's turn. So that's pretty cool. Pry. Target hero reveals a card from their hand. If Pry is played during an opponent's turn, instead they reveal all cards in their hand. You may choose a card revealed this way. If you do, that hero puts it on the bottom and draws a card. Blue Reverberate. Scalding Rain again. Timekeeper's Whim in blue. Voltic Bolt in blue. Zap in blue. Whispers of the Oracle. So here's a card we haven't seen yet. But again, it's a simple, straightforward. Pay 0, opt 2. Go again. That's the whole point of this one. And an Energy Potion, which gets your resources. And Potion of Deja Vu, put all cards from your pitch zone on top of your deck in any order. So that's pretty nice too, is you can set up a pile of cards in your pitch stack, pitching stuff you want to use, and then also be like, oh, but by the way, I'm going to use all that stuff. So that's the kind of thing this is kind of going. Some of the rarer cards, like I say, there's some Majestics that really build up. I want to say it's Blazing Ether that... It's the damage it does is however much arcane damage you've done that turn. So that just can pile up and get really, really potent. That's the combo turn that is really gonna wreck you. But yeah, so that's the gist of what's going on with that. You know, it doesn't have the big combo potential, but honestly, the Kano Blitz deck for a starter product is pretty solid. I feel like to kind of give the basics of how Kano works. But my gal Dorinthea, the first time your weapon attack hits each turn, you may attack an additional time with that weapon this turn. So she typically uses Dawnblade, which is a 2-handed sword. Pay 1 to attack for 3. The second time Dawnblade hits each turn, put a +1 counter on it. At the beginning of your end phase, if Dawnblade has not hit this turn, remove all +1 counters. So the idea is try and get as many times of swinging twice as humanly possible, and stack up counters. The most I think I've ever had was 7. So that means 1 for 10 plus whatever else you do to it. So that's her thing, is try and attack multiple times, try and get stuff through, add counters, make Dawnblade huge. Once it's big, it's one of the most efficient things you can do. Null Rune Hood, so for AB. Null Rune Robe for AB. Gallantry Gold. Pay 1 to destroy it. Your weapon attacks gain +1 this turn, so that's another easy boost for all your attacks. And Refraction Bolters is a key card for Dorinthea. Pretty straightforward. When your weapon attack hits, you may destroy it. If you do, the attack gains go again. Straightforward. And it's battle worn instead of either Temper or Blade Break. So you can actually block 1 with it and then still use it. Gallantry Gold is also battle worn. So that's one of the other things about Dorinthea, is she is very reliable. She's a good blocker as a rule. So first card, I haven't used this one a lot, but in the swing, play it only if you have attacked 2 or more times with weapons this turn. Target weapon attack gains +3. So you would play this on your second or third attack, which is technically possible. I would imagine there are technically ways to get more than that, though very improbable. But so this is a card you would play on your second or later attack. It's a 0 for +3. It's pretty decent. Iron Song response. This will introduce one of the other things that Dorinthea is very well known for. So, plays for 0. It's a warrior attack reaction. Reprise. So it doesn't do anything normally. Reprise, though. If the defending hero has defended with a card from their hand this chain length, target weapon gains +3. So just for that attack. But this is an easy 0 for 3 if they've blocked with something. If they haven't, it's useless as an attack reaction. You can always block with it or something if somebody's just not blocking you consistently. And this doesn't work against equipment either. So they have to block you with something from hand. When they do, this is really potent. That three can be a big deal. This is one of my favorites for Dorinthea as well. So this one costs 1 and it gets a +3 right off the bat. You'll see it also has a reprise effect, and you'll notice it is different. So they have all sorts of different ones. If the defending hero has defended with a card from hand at this chain link, your next attack gains +1. So if you are pretty confident you're getting a second attack, this is even handier because you pay 1 for 3, so you boost it up, but you're like, ha, I've got another attack coming, and now it's +1 as well. So that's a nice card to kind of build forward your attack. This is a card, a lot of people really like it. I can see its appeal, but it's not my favorite, but it's good. So 1 for 3 is already, that's nice. Its effect is, if the defending hero is defended with card from hand this chain length, draw a card. Then put a card from your hand on top or bottom. So basically, if you've got a couple cards in your hand, you can go fishing for something else that might suit you better. And then either cycle a card to the bottom or, I kind of still like this, let's put it on top. So it's a +3, and it's kind of boosting you for later as well. Razor Reflex. I don't use this card a whole lot, but it's not bad. Especially with the bottom part, it may be something that I have to... Oh, that's attack action. So yeah, it's not as interesting. So choose one. Target sword or dagger gains +3. So it's a 1 for 3. Fair enough. Target attack action card with cost 1 or less gains +3. And when this hits, the attack gains go again. So the 1 for 3 is fine, but it's not super helpful. And Dorinthea, she doesn't run a whole lot of attack actions to begin with. But in particular, if she does, they almost always are 2-cost ones. Basically, big Command and Conquer, Nourishing Emptiness. Something that doubles as a popper has a big, powerful effect. So this, it's not terrible, but it's not a card that I typically run in Dorinthea, and it's probably one of the first things that I would swap out for something else. Now, Driving Blade is a card that I want to like a lot. It was one that I finally took out of my decks, and it took me a while. I don't think it's bad, it's just expensive. So it's 2, next weapon attack gains +3 and go again. Which isn't bad, it's just that if it cost 1, it would probably be too good. But the 2 is just a little expensive for Dorinthea, but it is unquestionable go again, and a +3 pump isn't bad. So I guess paying 1 for go again, 1 for the pump isn't terrible, but it's not always a card that... It's an easy card to find yourself in a position that it's not super useful, unfortunately. Slice and Dice is a fantastic piece of art for the first thing. But the first time you attack with a weapon this turn, if it's a sword or dagger, it gains +1. The second time you attack with a weapon this turn, if it's a sword or dagger, it gains +3. So what this is basically, it's incentivizing your opponent to try and overblock on the first attack. I haven't played with this card a lot either, but it's one that I've always been tempted by because it's a 0 for that effect. It's one of those you're almost hoping that they overblock and just it's almost a bluff card in my mind, but it's not bad. Another staple that's a favorite of mine, Warrior's Valor. Cost 1. Your next weapon attack this turn gains +3, and when it hits, go again. So you have to hit, so that's why it's one less than Driving Blade, for example. But it's almost that same effect. So if you've got this with something like that Iron Song response, and your opponent blocks you 6, thinking, they're not going to hit, and then you throw that Iron Song response out there. That's what this card is very good for, that getting a conditional go again, but with a good pump as well. It's not bad. Flock of the Featherwalkers. As an additional cost to play it, reveal a card in your hand with cost 1 or less. When you attack with this, create a quicken or a token. I don't love it. It only blocks 2, which is a mark against it. This would probably be another pretty quick remove. The quicken token is nice because that gives you go again on an attack, but I'm just not crazy about that one. I don't feel like don't love it. Iron Song response in yellow. So there are 2 of those here. I don't play this in yellow, though I've seen some decks that dump some of the other pumps, the pay 1 for something, and put more Iron Song response yellow. I haven't tried that yet. I may at some point. I typically don't use the yellow. 0 for 2 if they block from hand. It's not terrible, but it's probably something else that I would be looking to remove. Yellow Sink Below. So blocks 3, put a card from your hand on the bottom of your deck. If you do, draw a card. Get red ones. That's all I can say to that, is that the yellow, they're okay. Like it's a good budget thing, I guess. It's a block. It lets you cycle if you need to, but it's not a fan of the yellow. The pitch is 1 more. Driving Blade in yellow, almost definitely no. From my perspective, I would take these out. Again, it's pay 2 for +2 and go again. I would take those out almost immediately. Yellow Hit and Run. This is not a bad card. I'm not sure I would go with yellow, but it is a 0 cost. Your next weapon attack this turn gets go again. If you've attacked with a weapon already, your next attack this turn gets +2. So it's not terrible, especially for 0. I almost always use it for just the go again and not the plus on the back end. Blue in the swing. So this is +1 on your last one. You always need blues, but I feel like this would probably not be in my deck, is my feeling. Iron Song response, 2 blues, so it's the reprise, adds 1. Out for Blood Blue, I do like having at least 1 or 2 in there, just because it's blue, but it also gives you the 1 and 1 on this attack and the next attack as needed. Overpower in blue is something that I've come to appreciate. So it costs 3, it's super expensive, but it's blue, so you're pitching it a lot of the time too. But you're kind of looking for it late in the game. Target weapon attack gains +2. Its reprise effect is instead gains +4 if they've defended from hand. So it's 3 for 2 or 3 for 4, which isn't a great rate, but considering you've probably pitched this a couple times already, that's something that really can put you over the edge when you really need a good hit. I've also started putting like a 1 of the red one in my for sideboard purposes, because it goes to 6, I believe, which can just be game breaking. Stroke of Foresight, this is the blue one. Probably not. That same, it's +1 since it's blue. The red was 3, and then it lets you draw and then put a card from hand. Blue Driving Blade, I'm a little bit more forgiving of than yellow, just on account of it being blue and pitching for 3. And then blue Hit and Run is a staple, big fan of that. And a Quicken token. So, I don't know when I'm going to do this. And I've seen some people doing some more of these lately. But I think I'm going to go through this. I already noted some of the cards, just since this is what I play. And you've got a sideboard. You have sideboard for equipment and Blitz anyway. So we'll get some ideas on what equipment you would want to do. I haven't decided if it'll be like a super budget option or kind of a here's what I would do and then mark out how that works budget wise. The 2 Null Rune pieces feels weird to me. Maybe in sideboard, but not in main board. But yeah, so I plan to go through this and kind of look at it, what I would do personally. If you wanted to like start with this, just buy a few cards and change them out and go take them to a Blitz event. Like there's stuff obvious, like, you know, people always talk about, oh, the Findel's Spring Tunic, or, you know, that kind of stuff. I'm probably not going to talk about that. That's kind of beside the point. But we'll take a look and see what kind of recommendations I have for starting out. Maybe I'll do a budget one, half of it budget, half of it, hey, here's what you could really do to go all out, or whatever, you know. I'll think about that and get back to you. But these two, I don't know. I was really happy with, you know, Viscera is living legended, so he's actually not even playable in Blitz, so I don't recommend that one unless you're just trying to get used to it or get even a base for a classic constructed deck. But I feel like both of these and the Dash deck are all pretty decent. There are things I question in this deck specifically that, honestly, though she's my favorite and the deck itself is fine, I think the Dash one might technically be I think I might like the way it is constructed. Like if I was going to sit down, like I had to win a game, I would probably take the Dash one over the Dorinthea, but I also don't think the Dorinthea one's bad. So, Kano and Dorinthea, join Dash at the top of the list. These two and Dash are definitely my 3 preferences of that. I'll dig into the Dorinthea one a little bit more later. And I hope y'all enjoyed taking a look at these, getting my opinions on it. But yeah, so if you're looking to get started, just want to buy a deck and test the game out, you're not necessarily thinking you're just wanting one of these off the shelf. At least as far as these 6, the History Pack Blitz decks. Kano, if you want to go a little bit off the beaten path, like break the rules of the game a little bit, is very good. Dorinthea and Dash are the ones that I think I recommend the most. But yeah, I got these all at Border Than Games. Check out the link down below, or use the code GrahamTCG. That's my name, TCG, at checkout for 5% off your order. Let's Paul know I sent you. Get some of these decks there if you are starting to look into maybe picking some of that stuff up. That'll be a good time, good way to go that route. Anyway, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. I hope this is useful to you, and I hope that any others that I do down the line are also useful to you. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day. Bye, y'all.